Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Snapshot, episode 83. I'm Brendan Patrick, joined always by Marvel Snap Phenom, Cam Best. Cam, your week in Marvel Snap, sir.
Pretty enjoyable. I remember when the season started, I was like, all right, I'm not really gonna try hard for high ranks. It's just gonna be fine. I'm gonna sit around and I'll be fine. Anyway, I'm like top 20, so that's cool. I think with Decay, I'm probably like 25 at the time of recording. That's pretty cool too. Like, I don't know. Turns out even when I'm not like super tryharding and I'm just like, I'll experiment a little more. And I definitely have done that this season where it's like, I will explicitly be like, I have a deck that's crushing. I'm very happy with it, but I have to go try other stuff. I have to go experiment, spread my wings a little bit outside of just playing literally the best deck and play like the best 5 decks instead. And I have found that to be enjoyable and fruitful. Marvel Snap is honestly pretty fun. I don't know if you know this, but I think it's a pretty fun game, and I've enjoyed it. And I constantly see a lot of Doomer stuff, and I wonder if it's maybe that I play less than the Doomers. I think that's entirely possible. Like maybe if I played like twice as much, I would be a Doomer too. But I just like the game still. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'll be a Doomer eventually. I just like the game.
Do you ever personally deal with burnout or anything like that?
Yeah, like right now, this week, I didn't stream Monday, Tuesday, because I was sick. And so I streamed Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I didn't stream Saturday. Today's Sunday. And I'm not sure whether the appropriate thing to do would be to stream on Monday or to stream extra long on Tuesday when the new cards come out. The answer for viewership is probably Tuesday, but that sort of pigeonholes me into making a really long stream. And I don't really want to know if I want to commit to being a really long stream when I could just do 4 hours Monday, 4 hours Tuesday. That's the kind of burnout I deal with.
Yeah.
Where it's like very easy for me to just skip one stream, and then skipping one stream turns into 2 streams that I skip. But because I am so dedicated to my schedule, like I don't buy the gold pass because I don't turn the game on days off. I don't do it. I don't do my quests. I don't turn the game on. I don't do it.
Yeah.
And the reason I approach it like that is because I know if I queued up some games of Marvel Snap, I would then queue more games of Marvel Snap, and then it wouldn't be a day off at all. Because this game is really good at getting you to play. And I think that, they're actually kind of leaning into that, right? They changed the free credit reward to be, instead of a flat 50 once a day, it's now 75, but you check in 3 times a day. I have never gotten 2 of those in a day. I never will. I won't do that. I'm sorry.
At the start of the game, that was about it. But yeah, I'm very anti. I don't know. It's kind of like that MMO loop where they get you to come in and do your daily quest. Like I hate that shit. I hate it so much. I mean, it does give you something to sort of do for the week. You have these kind of goals, but when it starts to feel like a job, I think that it's almost like a generational thing as the gaming industry has aged. Maybe mobile's kind of behind, but I know in like normal. Or like PC games, like Xbox games, they kind of like leaned away from that like daily task, weekly task thing because players really didn't like that grind, or at least Western players didn't. But it does seem like mobile games usually have that very front facing where it's kind of like log in, get this, click this. And, a lot of that is instituted to, it's in the shop for a reason. It directs your attention towards the shop frequently, multiple times per day. So it does increase the likelihood that you do buy something. But yeah, if at this stage of my Marvel Snap career, if I'm not going to finish my weekly quests, I don't sweat it. I'm not like, I got to grind it on this Monday night or this Tuesday morning. If I'm busy, I'm just like, whatever,
Marvel Snap is already my job. Mm-hmm. I have already taken something I enjoy and cannibalized it in service of capitalism, right? I have already done this. I don't need to also make it something I don't like. Yeah. And I think that that is something that I've always been, I'd say relative to other streamers, particularly good at, is saying, I don't need to make this something that I hate. I don't say I'm against any of the stuff that they're doing, the retention or the logons or whatever that they're juicing with this kind of stuff. I'm not against it. You described yourself as anti that kind of stuff. I'm not anti it. I just don't care. It's not going to dictate my behavior. It's simply not going to do that.
I do agree with you. I do think that Marvel Snap is a very fun game. I would say that I've had this one critique that I've held for a while, and I still maintain that I think that the end game is lacking. And I know it doesn't lack at the top end where you do have that that sort of grind for either top 1,000, top 100, or top X. I mean, you could technically make that top 5,000, but I just don't really feel it when I'm down there, to be honest. And I wish there was more incentivization, more rewards, and sort of like a more meaningful way to interact with the, or something that felt more rewarding on a day-to-day basis once you get to that post-infinite. I just feel like I just find myself reaching apathy pretty quickly with the current end-game system where I hit infinite and I'm like, okay, I can play for some ranks here and there, and I'm like, I don't know. It slips away from me. It could be my psychographics as a player. That could just be the issue. But I do feel like the end game system in Marvel Snap is lacking, which is interesting because despite our critiques of Deadpool's Diner last week, Deadpool's Diner was a good, in my opinion. Like if you ignore all of the negative things regarding the economy of it and some of the predatory practices, I do feel like as a pseudo endgame supplement, it did feel pretty good. Like I was kind of logging in, I was engaging with it. It did get me frustrated at times. I would say not very much, but I did get frustrated at times. But I did enjoy that. Like it was kind of a way to, I don't know, it was like a post infinite thing to do, and I suppose we had more of that.
Yeah, I can see how that's like, it feels like if you aren't in the club of people who are grinding for high infinite ranks or whatever, there isn't a lot to do. And I can see how Deadpool's Diner could alleviate that. But doesn't Deadpool's Diner have the exact same issue where like at some point you have like an arbitrarily large amount of bubs? I've got like a stack of 2 billion or whatever. I can't get rid of them.
Yeah, the game mode basically doesn't exist after that. And then there is another, there's actually like a even more niche sub game at the top where you compete for the bub leaderboard. And that's like what? Like, I don't know, probably less than 50 people are actually going for that, I would think. So
I think it's about 100, right? Like, I mean, and that even, it's like people are going to be like, oh, that's not free to play. I know a free to play guy who's probably going to get that title. I will say the title sucks. Best Bubs just sucks. A bad title, bad move. Don't like it.
I'm happy they attach something to it. I feel like that's a kind of a stretch nowadays, is to put these like, you know, very, very hard to get aspirational rewards at some of these things. So it is something, even if the title sucks, at least it's unique, because we've talked about it before. It's kind of what makes a lot of these things very desirable is actually, it's not how cool they are. It's just kind of how exclusive they are. You know, there's nuance to that. Some variants are cooler than others, but I mean, when it comes to a title, it's just like, fuck it. At least everybody else doesn't have it. That's cool. I'm the bub leader. That's what that means.
The bub. That would have been a better title.
The bub leader.
The bub leader. Straight up, it would have been a better title.
Well, let's hop into these OTAs, because this was actually pretty intense. On August 1st, we had a massive change to Loki, which I know for some people probably felt like it was too little, too late, but I was surprised to see it at all. I thought Loki would just stay around with his current design.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I was like,
wasn't this card just gonna be like that forever? Maybe they were just like, okay, look, we can't release Hope Summers and have it be just another fucking Loki card. Like, not Hope Summers, sorry, Kate Bishop.
Yeah,
my bad. I got my Children of famous X-Men and or Avengers mixed up. Sorry.
Well, that Loki change is, it used to be a 4/5 and now it's a 3/5, and it says on reveal, replace your deck with your opponent's starting deck. Give those cards -1 cost and draw cards. So it no longer replaces the hand. Yeah, I haven't experimented too much with Loki. Is it viable in this new design space?
On its own, no. It's an RSM card.
Okay.
There's like this thing that seems to happen where, and like this might just be like a product of being on Twitter or like talking to Twitch chat, or like much of my engagement with the Marvel Snap community being through platforms that sort of lend themselves to hyperbole. But I constantly see people saying shit like, they buffed Loki and Arishem, they're better now. And it's like, I don't think so, but I'm definitely not sure enough about it one way or the other to say that. And the fact that you think you are sure enough about that makes me want to doubt everything else you say. Like, it's been approximately 2 days and people are like saying things like that with extreme confidence. If I had to guess, I think you could argue that right now Loki stands out more because the previous RSM snap conditions were early Loki, early Doc Ock, early Leech. Of those, Loki is the only one that remains a snap condition in the deck. And so it stands out more relative to the rest of the deck. I think it's possible it's better in Arishem. I don't think Arishem the deck is better.
How much Arishem are you seeing in High Infinite, by the way?
A reasonable amount.
Okay,
but like not like When I say a reasonable amount, like I don't mean the reasonable amount that we previously were seeing.
Yeah, because that for me that deck fell off a cliff since Cassandra came out.
I mean, I would say that is accurate, right? When you look at the data on Untap for latest patch, top 10%, the number one card you see immediately, sorted in their tier list sorting, which, debatable, is Cassandra Nova at 36% play rate, a 54% win rate. God, what a freaking beast that card is. I love her so much. On popularity, Arishem ends up being about 16% of the metagame post-patch, which is roughly in line with what I've experienced. And I think that's basically perfectly fine for me. I'm 100% okay with where Arishem is right now. It's a fine, good, maybe great deck. And I don't find it nearly as annoying to play against as I used to, because there's now no Doc in it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you mentioned, there are a lot more nerfs a part of this OTA. So we also had Leech change from a 5/5 to a 4/4, and says on reveal, move the text from 6 cost cards in your opponent's hand. What do you think about this one specifically?
I kind of love it. Like our whole issue with Leech has always been that rather than aiming it at a specific type of card, it has instead been, I stop interaction from happening. Mm-hmm. Because a deck that can get ahead enough on tempo to justify playing Leech is the kind of deck that is typically vulnerable to on-reveal interaction like Shadow King, like Shang-Chi, like Enchantress. And so when you have a deck like Old Thanos or current Arishem that is able to just tempo, play this card that says you can't interact, and then, we're already ahead on tempo, you can tell because we were able to safely play the Leech. So of course we're just going to win the game now that you can't interact with us, right? And making Leech a card that actually does something different than that, like, okay, let's say Galactus becomes popular. Ha! Let's say Living Tribunal becomes popular. Ha! Let's say Hela becomes popular. Ha! Now he's actually doing something. Like, now Leech is doing something that has a defined role, but isn't just door slamming. It's actually like, this card is here for if something else becomes a problem. He is finally actually the release valve he was intended to be. This is actually a release valve card now. I'm very happy about that.
Well, speaking of Doc Ock is now a 4/8 instead of a 5/10. It says on reveal, pull the lowest power card from your opponent's hand to their side of this location.
I kind of think this card might be good.
Okay.
Like, it hasn't really shined in the immediate post OTA, so it's possible I'm wrong. But I kind of think just a 4/8 that does this, like, there's a world where I'm like, I'll curve this into Black Bolt, and that's just really strong. That's just like a really strong thing to do. I'm not saying I'm always going to do that. It's just like something that comes to mind where it's like, that's a meaningful disruption. And there are worlds where that kind of disruption is actually impactful to what your opponent is doing. I don't think we live in one of those worlds now, but there is a world where like 4/8 discard a card, 5/7 discard a card is a thing you want to be doing. I don't think we're there now. I think, things like Thena are just a little bit too strong for us to want to be doing things like that. Like the early scalers are a little bit too big. But in the world we were in, like when we had, do you remember when we had right after the werewolf nerf and there were just not very many good early scalers in the game, and we were just sort of curving out a little bit? That's the kind of world where I think this card could succeed. And I'm not saying we're in that world yet. I'm not saying we'll ever be in that world again. But I of all the cards that were changed, this is the one I have my eye on, is like, I actually kind of think this is nice.
Okay, well, we had a change to White Widow as well, where the Widow's Kiss now says ongoing. This says -3 power instead of -4 power, which is what it used to be. And of course, the disable this ability if your side location is full. This was this is funny. So White Widow was one of the last, like, I felt like critical cards I needed, and I was so close. Like, I was actually like I was checking my shop to pin it and buy it, and someone actually gave me the heads up that this nerf was coming, and I'm very happy that
someone gave you the heads up. Someone broke an NDA for you.
Well, I think technically, I don't know if the NDA, like, I think I could get the information.
I tell you on record, this was not me. I'm actually insane about the NDAs. I never tell anyone shit.
Yeah. I think that I might be in the program so that I could actually get this information.
I think you are technically in the program under the YouTube channel for this podcast.
Yeah. So I think I'm technically in the program, but I don't check, and I don't really feel like joining the main Discord at this point. But I was going to buy it because I wanted to play it in the Ajax deck. And yeah, maybe it still fits in there, but I was happy that I saw this early.
I wanted to talk about the NDA stuff a little bit, actually, because I am so disappointed by the way every other creator carries themselves. So here's my tips to other creators who have to deal with like being live while leaks happen or whatever. Lie. Do you know what I did the day before the OTA dropped? I constructed a list of what I was messing around with my chat. We were talking about a list of the best cards to release in the last 5 months. I put all 12 of them in a deck. And then someone asked, like, oh, it's a preview of the OTA tomorrow. And I was like, okay. Actually, chat, I will tell you how many of these cards are being nerfed tomorrow. And I like looked at it for a while and like pretended to count for a little bit. And then I said 12, which I thought clearly a joke. Obviously, all 12 of these cards are not getting nerfed tomorrow. Multiple people in chat believed me. So what I would like to encourage you to do if you are a Marvel Snap creator, lie. Just lie. Just lie about stuff. Create an environment where people do not know if they can trust a word you say about OTAs. This frees you up to do whatever you want. Nobody believes anything I say in my Discord before an OTA comes out because they are so used to me doing this. I could post the actual OTA. I won't because that's still against the NDA, but I could actually post the OTA and they'd be like, God, there goes KM lying again. That's the environment you want to cultivate with your subscribers.
Do these things, do they frequently leak? I'm not really in touch with it.
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They really do. Like,
I would be surprised.
I think like probably the last like 5 have leaked, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like you get like, there's no way. I mean, they just post it. It's just like a text, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, my understanding is that I think of the last 5, 3 have been literally just second dinner uploads it to the thing that puts it in the game. And then people brute force that URL. I think 3 of them were that. And I think 2 of them were people in the creator program leaking. Mm. And personally, that's really annoying to me because, like, I'll be honest. I do this full time. If creators were to stop getting OTA privileges, which I think would probably be a reasonable response to constant fucking leaks, it wouldn't hit me that hard, right? I can wake up and film a video. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't have to do anything at noon or 3 p.m. or whatever, whenever that stuff is coming out. The people that actually hurts are not the people who can do this full time. It's everyone smaller than that who actually has a real job. And so, like, that's the frustrating thing for me. Like, no one doing all this leaking stuff is going to end up long term hurting me. I'm going to be fine. I can film the fastest video. It's probably actually actively better for me if they stop doing this because now I don't have to compete on an even field. But like, it hurts all the people who absolutely don't need to get hurt. The people who getting the OTA early helps are the people who need that time to prep their content and otherwise will not be able to do it. And it's very frustrating to constantly watch this happen, I think. And yeah, it sucks. This goes back to my original idea. Lie more.
All right, the next one is Blob. Blob was changed, so it says on reveal. It's still 6-0. Merge cards from your deck until it gains 13 or more power instead of 15 or more power.
Unnecessary. Unnecessary nerf. I don't get it. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think they did enough damage to RSM already. But sure, whatever.
You think it's too much?
I mean, RSM's still good. I don't think it's too much. I just think it's unnecessary. Like, RSM's still good. Blob is still fine in the deck. It's just like, it feels unnecessary to me. They already hit 3 other pieces of RSM. I'd rather wait to see how that lands and then nerf Blob later if you feel that it needs to be nerfed, because this is a deck that the Blob only has 1 home. And I don't want to make him homeless, All
right, well, there's 2 more. One was War Machine going from 4/6 to 4/7. I don't know if you want to touch on that. I think War Machine, isn't that one of like the worst cards in the game statistically?
I can check.
Pretty sure it was.
Let me do a.
The one I do want to talk about though is we saw Apocalypse move from a 6/6 to a 6/8. Does this increase the viability of discard at all?
Yeah, I think it does. The thing about discard is it's exactly 100% predicated on the amount of points it can output, because discard is not a deck that can run Shang-Chi. So in order for you to ever choose a deck that can't run Shang-Chi or Shadow King or whatever over a deck that can, like discard's competition being Thena decks, Zoo decks, as far as points decks go, Zoo gets to run Shadow King, Thena decks gets to run Shang-Chi. In order for you to ever choose discard, either those tech cards need to not be relevant at all, or discard needs to be doing meaningfully more points than those. Or you need to be in a position where being a non-Shang-Chi deck is offset by the fact that it's very hard to Shang-Chi you, right? And I think that those points matter for discard more than they matter for basically anything else. Discard needs every single point it can possibly get in order to even be close to viable.
Mm-hmm. How close do you think it is to viable? You know, the reason I ask the reason I ask is because Proxima is currently in the cache, so relevant.
You can play discard. Yeah. I would not say I would highly recommend you play discard. I think it's like below that top tier of decks I typically highly recommend. But like, if you ask me to choose between like discard, destroy, or Phoenix Force, I think discard's the one that has like the most like. Of the legacy archetypes, discard, destroy, Phoenix Force, Mr. Negative, things like that, I would say discard is the one I'm the most interested in right now. That might not be the best, but it's the one I'm the most interested in.
Did you have anything to say in regards to the War Machine buff for 4.6 to 4.7?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah. I mean, safe enough to give him a point.
It's
right?
good into Sandman. Yeah. Sandman's a popular card right now. Like, maybe there's something there. I had a deck on my tier list from Gnome that I thought was pretty interesting, but I think my issue with War Machine is the cards it brings with it. One of the big lessons I've taken away from the previous metagame is like when we talk about like the cards you have to play to engage to play other cards, the value of not having to invest too much to get your payoff. I think this is illustrated best by Darkhawk. Because there are Athena Darkhawk decks, when you think about what that all implies, it's not just 2 cards, it's like 6. Because, okay, you're playing Darkhawk, right, in your Athena deck. That means you want to run Rock Slide, it means you're going to run Korg. That's 3 cards. But you're playing Darkhawk. If you're playing Darkhawk, don't you want to run Mystique? 4 cards. If you're playing Mystique, don't you want to run Iron Man and Ravonna? 6 cards. Suddenly, just because you want to be a Darkhawk deck, you are pushed into either 3 at the small end or 6 at the large end cards that you otherwise weren't running. And suddenly that's what your deck is about instead of anything else. There's a lot of value in not having a huge investment and not making you play bad cards to get your good cards in there. And I think War Machine's issue is like, what is it that goes with War Machine? Infinite. What does Infinite bring with you? Black Knight. Is it ever going to be better for you to be a Black Knight deck versus a normal Athena deck? Probably not. And that's the kind of issue that you end up having when you want to be a War Machine deck, is like you can play it on your own, maybe, but I'm not sure that's necessarily good. And if you try to lean into it, you end up losing good cards for cards that are not necessarily not good, but they're not consistent.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's head into our Ben and Snap section, our listener question section. If you want to hear your question read on next week's podcast, you just shoot us a comment on YouTube. Nice 111 comments. There's so much to read through today. We got some good ones. First one is from Evan. My strat was, and this is in regards to Deadpool's Diner, my strat was a negative deck that I could retreat based on my hand if I play him on 3 or 4. It was a lot of retreating for sure, but the reward for max win from a bot or human is well worth it. And when I made it to Cherry Pie, people were much more likely to retreat, so many of the retreats that I was doing before were unnecessary because they would beat me to it. So that made my bub rate much higher. It took a long 3 to 4 days for me playing. Good luck. So, yeah. We're dead.
I think that's Deadpool's like a fine thing.
Is it firmly in the rearview mirror right now? Like,
oh, it has been for me.
I know. That's what's so funny is it's like, It just feels like so far away.
I will say, anyone who has not gotten Cassandra Nova, get her. Yeah, I don't care what it takes. Like, that card is amazing. Get her.
Yeah. All right. Worm says, when they were designing Snap, automatic snapping after every turn was actually the prototype based on backgammon's doubling cube. So it's actually really cool to see a mode that's closer to the initial idea.
I guess if you don't assign a value judgment to cool, yeah. But it's also like, we took this out of the game for a reason, right? Like, I like that. Like when you iterate on something and you're like, actually, I think this thing is bad, and then you put it back in, like, doesn't that, you thought it was bad for a reason, right?
Yeah, it takes away the dynamic of like your opponent having the onus to snap you. if your opponent's never, if you're just getting auto snapped by the sort of increasing stakes starting on 4, like you actually have to play your hand a bit more rather than just exploiting your opponent's inexperience and snapping you early, right? So it's kind of interesting. Next one's from Zombies. Even putting aside the early issues, is the mode actually fun in terms of its different gameplay mechanic? Personally, I don't think so, and I've seen a lot of people feel the same. I've lost count of the amount of people who say it causes more stress than enjoyment. Free rewards are always good, especially a card, but as a player, I don't like that they spend so much time on a mode that is fundamentally not super fun to play. Snap created such a great base game, but it feels like they don't know what else to do with it, and clearly a lot of players are hungry for something more/different.
I don't think that's true. I'm going to make a read right now. This person saying they made it a higher stress game mode. It shouldn't be a higher stress game mode. It's only a higher stress game mode because you're not tryharding the ladder. It's a higher stress game mode because there's rewards at the end of it you want. But I feel like anyone engaged enough to leave comments on here shouldn't be stressing about Deadpool's Diner, honestly. Like, unless you're just not playing for a while, I feel like you're very, very reasonably going to be able to do everything you need to do as a Deadpool's Diner gamer. Like, this is an issue of the exponential scaling that people feel that it's a higher stakes mode, because I think they gave you a ton of time in order to get that free card. Like a ton of time. Lambie was playing it with like a rule that he wouldn't even go up in tables until he had 10x the value of the table, which is insane and terrible. Like, when did you get Cassandra Nova?
Oh, a while ago. I don't know exactly.
You didn't even spend money on it, right? You just like got it by playing,
No.
And it was like, what, 4 or 5 days in?
Yeah. So
and you, according to many of our commenters, don't even play this game anymore?
I only saw one comment that said that, to be fair.
I get it sometimes in the Discord. People are like, does Brendan even play anymore? It's like, yeah, of course he does.
I actually been playing a lot recently.
Yeah.
I do take breaks now sometimes. Like,
yeah, I like to do that.
Like I said,
as soon as you do, every time people start bugging me about it.
Yeah, I do take breaks because again, it's honestly most of my breaks are connected to the end game.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I don't really feel like competing at the end. Honestly, it's just like not where I'm at right now. I don't feel like competing at the high end ladder, and this I don't the content doesn't hit for me at like the nuances of top 1,000 to top 500 to top 5,000. Just like it's all the same shit to me. So I was like, okay. But I kind of forgot what. Yeah, there's one interesting thing about this comment. Oh, in regards to how fast I got it, yeah, it was pretty easy to get. The main thing is getting that 30M, so you get the bob refresh, and yeah, then after.
Well,
that,
I mean, once you get 30M, you're talking about the variant now. Cassandra's at 15.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the variant.
Yeah, like
the variant's easy to get, by the way. The variant's very easy to get once you get the 30M. It's that last jump to the 30 million that's like you have to. I don't know. You have to like kind of like not lose a little bit, but that's about it. Yeah, I got it pretty quick, and it was super easy. And I honestly didn't play a lot of bots because people were turbo retreating me. Like it was like insane.
Yeah.
Like I would sometimes go like 5-6 games, and people would be retreating before the screen popped up on mobile.
Yeah, I almost think that like the fact that they put a good card in here made people feel way more pressure than was necessary. Because I think the issue is people didn't really want to look at this as a 14-day mode. They needed the card now. And so the pressure is intense when you need to win every game to get your card, right? But it's not intense over the course of 14 days. And I think maybe Cassandra Nova is too good for a mode like this. That like the card being like, honest to God, if you asked me the best or most important card in the game right now, it probably is her.
Yeah,
like
I started to feel the pain a little bit when I was like trying to get Cassandra Nova. I was like, damn, I really want to play the Cassandra Nova deck, not the Arshem deck. That was not super fun. I was playing the Arshem deck when everybody else had the Cassandra Nova deck. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna play that deck. And also that deck is just way more fun, in my opinion. So, or all the Cassandra Nova
because like
decks.
when you're a Cassandra Nova deck, you end up being able to play what I would term as normal Marvel Snap, and anyone who's been doing a podcast for this long knows exactly where your head is at on normal Marvel Snap. Normally, like, you're a Galactus head, but failing that, you'll play normal Marvel Snap because you enjoy normal Marvel Snap, right? And so, like, that, I get why you'd feel that way. I don't know, like, maybe this is the mode where they're supposed to put Iron Elbow in it.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's what's supposed to be the prize for this mode, where it's like something that people won't like stress themselves to death over, but it's like a nice thing to have.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, due to how negative some of the early feedback was, the mode might be looked at as a failure. But I do think that outside of the like some of the more predatory stuff regarding like obfuscation of how the economy worked, I do think that the mode was good, and if they repeat it in the future, I would like it. But giving players a quote unquote, and it's a heavy quote unquote free card, and then having the PR blowback be negative is probably not very inspiring for the people.
I would be so mad if I was them.
Might as well just charge these people. Fucking
yeah, like I would be so mad. I would be like, you guys serious about this? You don't want anything. Nothing we give you is good enough ever. There's always something wrong with it. To be fair, though, I do think there were some real things wrong.
Yeah, they just even if you're like, yeah, like if they just like had, they get cozy. I saw a comment that said this, and I kind of agree with it. They said cozy, make a video, explain the mode, and then they fixed the first game issue where if you lose, you're out. I think it would have been received a lot better. Like it was very confusing. I think they without
did that. They had It's Guest Gaming do a video explaining the mode.
I guess I didn't see that.
They put it on their
socials. I saw the video from Cozy like a couple days later, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, sense. Like it's like I think Cozy here is being used as a proxy for. It's actually sort of shocking how little engagement they have with the community as compared to content creators do.
Oh yeah, it's actually astounding. It's actually astounding.
That's talk about like Cozy here. What they mean is like
there's like a really there's just a funny anecdote, like funny thing there is like Flesh and Blood used to do that, and I just wanted to divert from Marvel Snap because I don't want to
Yeah, we got to talk about
people
Flesh
are getting dizzy at this point. Someone's been 3 fucking episodes.
We can't talk about Marvel Snap.
Flesh and Blood used to be like that actually, and then they kind of overhauled it to bring a lot of it in house. Now they have their own podcast, like they have their they hire content creators to do content on their channel, which I know Second Internet does, but they drastically increased their reach. They used to have almost no reach.
Does that for the record?
Yeah,
as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, but Flesh and Blood, the publisher of Legendary Studios, had like almost no reach to its customer base, and it was all this content creators kind of had that. I felt, and then they definitely turned that around. Is
that a Brian Gottlieb thing?
Yeah, for sure.
Give credit 100%
a Brian Gottlieb thing. And I mean, I can't.
When you said in-house podcast, I was like, that's my boy.
I remember asking Brian at the World Championship. I was like, "Do you ever miss?" He had just stopped doing the Arena Decklist podcast. Like, "Do you ever miss it?" And he was like, "Nah." And then he just like had this. Then a couple months later, they launched like a very professional, well-made podcast from the publisher itself, which Brian works for. So that was it was kind of funny thinking back on that.
That's my boy. Let's go, Brian.
But Second Dinner, yeah, I agree with you. I think that it feels like they have they have very, very little reach to their audience.
Yeah. And so like when people talk about like, oh, they should have just had Cozy do this. It's like, that what they actually mean is they should have Cozy's reach. Like I think that's the actual issue here.
Yeah, maybe I think he explained it like a couple days out. I don't know. Just the way I just remember seeing this, like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I didn't really think about like, oh, did they already do this or stuff like that? But
yeah, no, like it's obviously way easier to explain something after you've had 3 days of millions of people testing it for you than it is to do it before that.
I do think that they did, ultimately the core argument is I do think that they kind of fumbled it a little bit before launch, and if they had done a few things differently, maybe. That's a big maybe. We would have seen a better PR response. But then again, like the Snap community could just be so jaded at this point that, no matter what it is, it's just going to piss them off.
I do kind of feel like we're getting there.
Pretty close.
There's just so much I don't really know the right way to describe it. Knee-jerk jumps to the worst possible interpretation of everything. Like someone was complaining, oh, we're back in RSM meta today. It's like, no, we're not. 16% play rate. Or if anything, we're in a Cassandra Nova meta, which is the anti-RSM meta. But like, every time anything happens, it doesn't really feel like we're attached to reality in terms of the way things are actually being critiqued. It's always like a level or two beyond where it needs to be for how things are talked about. And I like to think that I do a pretty okay job being fairly reasonable about stuff and couching it in it just being my opinion and not jumping to vast conclusions based on 2 or 3 days or whatever. but I feel like there's this urge in the community to be like the first person to call something a problem. Like that's a prize or whatever. Oh, I said RSM was an issue 2 days before KM Best did. Let me go leave a comment on his channel to make sure about that. And I feel like that's just the wrong way to approach things. The right way to approach things is understanding your own fallibility, to me.
I think it's just, I think that's an example of modern society where everybody has an opinion about everything, like, as soon as possible. Like, it's
so fast. Like, everyone has their takes so fast.
Why do you have to have a take on everything? Why can't you just appreciate that you might be ignorant about something? That you might not know everything? That it takes a little bit of a while to formulate an opinion. It's just like everybody has a snap, conclusive and objective opinion on things. And it's like, it's just not that simple. And
it's just like I'm very rarely 100% positive about stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're not an idiot. You have to be an idiot to be 100% positive about almost anything. Like, you just kind of
it's hard. It's hard for me to get there.
Yeah.
But like when you talk about what this meta is about, here's some stats for you. Top 10% infinite since the patch. You ready?
Yeah.
Sandman, 55% win rate, 12.8% play rate. That's a hell of a stat, right? Like. Here's another stat for you. Makari, 58% win rate, 2.8% play rate. How's that one for you?
How does play rate work with Makari? Like, is it if Makari jumps
in
out
deck.
of your hand?
When I say play rate, it's just in deck. Okay. It's not like played onto the board. It's in 2.8% of decks contain Makari.
Okay. I thought like Makari was like subverting the stat because it jumped out of your hand. And it was like
it contains Makari is the thing we're going for here. But yeah, like a card like Ultron has a 12.9% play rate and a 53.7% win rate since the patch. That's dope as hell. Here's an argument against something I think, right? Blob, 53% win rate, 53.5, 11.6% play rate, and that's post-nerf. So maybe I guess it was fine to take that power off. What do I know, right? Maybe I'm just wrong, But yeah, that's just some stuff I wanted to highlight. Like there are some real movements in this metagame. Most of them seem to be Sandman and or Absorbing Man related, but there's some real movement in this metagame in a way that it was not moving previously. And I think that dooming about it, I think there's a reasonable way to doom about it, which is to say it feels like everything is either a Cassandra deck or an RSM deck. Reasonable dooming. I think that's a reasonable doomer thing to make. But to doom a step beyond that, I think is maybe a bit much.
Mm-hmm. All right, next one is
also for the record, Cassandra Nova, the best possible kind of tech card. Because normally with a tech card, you are paying a meaningful cost for running it. Mobius was a 3/3, for example. Cassandra Nova is just a 3/7 that also shits on RSM. I love that. You're not warping your deck in any way to play her. You're just like, I'll play a 3/7. That rocks. Like that's I have such an appreciation for that card. I love her so much.
Yeah, how do you toss up like the Cassandra Nova play lines? Like when you have things like Hope Summers in hand, do you do you always turn 3 Cassandra?
I turn 3 her a lot unless I can see another way. Again, that's like pretty contextual, right? Mm-hmm. But there is like a meaningful cost to not turn 3ing her. So like maybe you have like a Korg in hand and you can offset that meaningful cost and you want the Hope Summers. But you gotta start asking yourself, like, what do I want this Hope Summers for? What does my game in this situation look like? Against Arishem, you're perfectly fine to hold her forever because she's still gonna be like a 315 or whatever. Against other decks, it's like a little bit more awkward.
All right. Next one's from Cycle. I say, I haven't played since March. Can you convince me to play again? That was the Baron Zemo season pass. Now I'm several staples behind and feel locked out with the key to get back in is the shape of a $500 bill. There has to be a different angle for getting back into Marvel Snap. What was needed to break? What was a needed break has turned into a lost customer.
Right now, the best way to convince you to play is to say you can get the best card in the game for free.
I think my best way to convince you to play is that in order to play, you don't need the best cards. It just feels like you need the best cards. Like you don't actually need them. But I feel the same way.
I think you do need Cassandra. I'm going to level with you. I think if there's a card, there's a card of this power level that's available for free, go fucking get it.
Yeah, but let's be real. If you're coming back from Marvel Snap after a long break, You don't need the best cards to achieve what you're trying to achieve, most likely. But I'm the same way. Even if I'm just trying to hit infinite for that season to get my rewards, I still kind of despise not playing the best cards in the best deck. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is a more of a individual issue rather than like a game issue. But yes, if you want to acquire all the best cards, you've taken a reasonable break, it is a huge flaw with the current system, in my opinion. But you don't need those cards. And I don't think this answer is going to help. Because we feel
probably
like
true. Yeah. That said, like you asked this question last week. I hope someone got to you and told you go get the best card in the game.
Yeah. Next one is from Ben. They said, "Who does Conquerors if not Second Dinner?"
Oh, the people who do Conquerors are Newverse and Tribe. Tribe is who they contract out to. I believe I'm not NDA'd on any of this. We'll obviously have to take this down if it turns out that I am, but I don't believe that I am. Newverse is the publisher of Second Dinner. My experience in participating in Conquerors has been that Newverse contracts it out to a company called Tribe Gaming. You may know Tribe from being the sponsors. Like I think Dexter was with them. I think Cozy is with them. I think Molt is with them. And every person I've worked with at Tribe is honestly incredibly kind, incredibly nice. Nothing but 10 out of 10 reviews for them. Same goes for the Newverse people. I've got nothing bad to say about any of them. In terms of this last Conquerors, my understanding is Second Dinner's involvement. And this is as a participant, I did not talk to a single Second Dinner person about Conquerors. Not one. But I did talk to Newverse and Tribe people about Conquerors. They were the people, as I understand it, who came up with the format, who iterated on it. I do not think Second Dinner was involved in that. Second Dinner was involved in making sure we had accounts to play on. They seem to be involved in like a we will provide what you need kind of role. But the impetus for the events comes from Newverse, the publisher, and Tribe, who is contracted by the publisher. So if I had to guess, the people who are in charge of the events is some combination of those two who are planning things. For the record, can I finish my monologue?
Yes.
I gotta. It's Cam's yap time. All right. It's 5:45. It's yap time.
Hailing from Japan. Yeah. Speaking Japanese right now. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I actually stop making yap jokes because I'll start laughing and I'll lose my train of thought. The main thing about the format from last time a lot of people complained about was like, how did they not see this coming? Things of that nature. I have no answer for that. I have no idea who was doing the formatting and how they didn't see the bot issues coming or what they would have done. I can tell you what my pitch would have been. It would have been give everyone a bunch of bubs, stick us all on the same table and put us on like a test server where it's just us on that server. So it's like a 2-hour poker tournament.
Yeah, bro.
That way there would not be like the issue with doing that conceptually. I can understand why they didn't go with that, because if we don't all play on the same table, it's actually really terrible because we won't match up with each other. So we have to all play on the same table in order for that to work. And I think they didn't want to do that as a showcase of Deadpool's Diner, because Deadpool's Diner is this iterative moving up to tables thing. And it's more true to the actual mode to allow people to move up tables. However, if you are showcasing creators, I think the best way to do that is to have them play each other. And so that would have been my pitch. I did ex post facto offer this to both the Newverse and the Tribe people as an example of how I was like, hey, there were some issues with this. I'd be happy to consult on any future ones if you guys want to run that by anyone.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. So there's two arguments that I think can possibly be made against you. One is that it's not a good showcase of the mode, because that's not what people will experience. You're going to play the mode.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable argument.
I think it's a fucking dog shit argument. And the reason I think that is because what you end up with is a much, much, much worse showcase of the mode.
It ends up worse, yes.
And then you're paying content creators to come to your thing. I'm assuming you're getting paid for no reason. You're putting on production for almost no reason. And the whole thing looks like you don't even know what game that these people that you hire are even playing. It's so bad. So bad. The other argument is that it is technically not feasible, or it is technically too challenging. And what I say is, whoever told you that, fire them. Fire them immediately, because that is ridiculous. I do not endorse
this. I have had nothing but good experiences with the people that Brendan is probably calling to fire right now.
It would take, and you know how hard it is, but just fucking do it. I don't know. Everybody here who has like half
fucking Shia LaBeouf over here.
Just do it. Like, don't listen to some bureaucratic, I don't know, like,
dude, you're really verging into your like populist politician arc.
It's just
don't listen to. You can't listen to the bureaucrats.
You can't
listen to the bureaucrats anymore.
No, but seriously,
you must get it done.
That happens all the time. Where someone will tell you something is technically infeasible, or it's too hard, and it's just a load of shit. And then you end up.
We
with
have no idea if that's what happened.
I know, and I preface that with this, but you end up with this end product that is, in my opinion, virtually useless. And it is so blaringly obvious that this is going to be the end result that it's like, that should not be the way. And of course, like, you even have people competing in the tournament. They're going to tell you beforehand, like, hey, there's this issue. Like you said, you could hire outside consultants, people who actually play the game, because it seems like whoever put this on was not playing the game. And it's just, it blows my mind that these things happen, because every other step, or a lot of the other steps, are executed so well. They're executed so well. Like, the production is good, the content creators they pick, those are good, the voting is kind of good. You know, there's a lot of other things that are very, very good, but then they fumble it with like the gameplay and the fundamental system of how Marvel Snap works. And it's just like, how does that happen? It blows my mind.
I would love to consult on stuff like that.
I know you.
We all know my ambition to meme my way into a job at Second Dinner. I would love to do this, even if it's not actually for Second Dinner, unfortunately. But like, it would help probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all know my ambition.
Should have been a tournament between the content creators.
Yeah.
There was actually a comment we had from Stewart's like, I wish there were more Conquerors type events, and a lot of us agree with you, but can't understand why they can't just be tournaments. And yeah. Like, the bot stuff
I actually
sucks.
do understand that one. The reason they don't want them to just be tournaments is because it does not match with their vision for what Marvel Snap is. Marvel Snap as far as I can tell, Marvel Snap to Second Dinner to Newverse to whoever's running these, the vision for it is very specifically, we do not want to do tournaments. Like I would almost say that might be like the top line thing they tell you. We don't want it to be about competitive stuff, sweating, meta games, any of that. We want fun, fast, fresh.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Okay, pushback. That's stupid. And the reason that's stupid is because
you're a competitive gamer.
No, because what you get instead is a fucking metagame of how to exploit bots. Like, what?
Yes.
So
this
dumb.
was bad.
Like, whoever
not
thinks,
argue against
like,
that.
The thing is like, you take these arguments and they're so level one, and there's no nuance, and it's just kind of dumb, because what you end up with is now you have a metagame of your content creators just exploiting the bots in your game, and that looks worse. So
yes,
yeah. Like, I understand the philosophy and almost to an extent, like the dogma behind it's like, we don't want competitive, that's too bad, we can't do that. But then when you end up, it's just a metagame of people exploiting like this weird system in your game, which is like what is effectively kind of like post infinite bots, which is what Deadpool Steiner kind of was. Like, you're now getting bots, and these people are exploiting it, they're auto retreating versus players. It's like that, you obviously don't want that. So just go a little bit deeper. Like, and yeah, I also agree. I agree with you that I don't think that like a competitive tournament necessarily be good. Like, people say it in our comment section, like, why can't they be competitive tournaments?
Of course they do.
Yeah. And I also, like, I think to an extent, like, yeah, people wouldn't even want to watch that. Like, competitive tournaments are, they're not, I don't know. I think that the vast majority of Marvel Snap players, they're not that interesting. And the nuance that is being captured in a competitive tournament is hard to, it's hard to appreciate, I think. And I think ultimately you're just going to see, what you can see a lot of times is like, you'll see mirrors, you'll see the same decks versus the same decks, and like, I don't know, it's like also it's going to be completely detached from like the normal player experience, because you're seeing the high end competitive decks with the best cards versus the high end competitive decks with the best cards, and for a lot of people that is not Marvel Snap. That's not their experience.
Yep.
And I guess the Conquerors was a good example, because a lot of people's experience is farming bots.
Not as many as you'd want. There's definitely some salt from people who don't get bots looking at that, being like, where are my bots? Where's my free Cassandra Nova SD?
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out one other issue with Conquerors, which was the names were randomized. So I was named that you get to pick your name, but none of them were our actual names. So I chose the name Chorizo Joe, which is a reference to the most recent episode of Make Some Noise on dropout.tv. Shout out to Dropout, big fan. So I had a great play that was on stream against an opponent I thought was Das Medi, and I later learned it was Disguised Toast, and I did not know that. I didn't know it was Disguised Toast. I was calling him the wrong name on stream the entire time. And it's just like, oh, why is it like that? Like, why do we have our names like that? And it was like I did like a pump his Ajax with my hazmat to Shang-Chi it kind of play. It was cool. It was like one of the things people were like, hey Cam, that was a really cool play. My name wasn't on it, and his name wasn't on it. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah, I hope they change Conquerors in the future, because I feel like the bots have impacted like multiple Conquerors that I've watched or that I've been interested in, that I've voted on, to say the least. But this one in particular was disappointing to me, because I do think that if you got content creators together, they don't have to be competitive content creators. They could be competitive and also just recognizable content creators, and you throw them in like a zero-sum poker environment. Like, that's kind of cool. That's fun.
Yeah, the two people who finished first and second didn't play a single human.
I thought it was third and fourth as well.
Third and fourth played each other twice.
Okay. Third and fourth win traded. Got it.
Yeah. Third and fourth played each other twice. Fifth and sixth was me and Dexter. Dexter just insta retreated turn one against me twice, and then stayed in the last game of the whole event.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so yeah, a lot of great clips generated from that one.
What I hope is that there are just some lessons learned from that, because I do think a lot of the other aspects of Conquerors are very good.
Yeah. And
I don't want Second Dinner and I know it's not Second Dinner, but if it was, I don't want whoever's in charge of this to walk away and be like, yeah, hiring content creators to showcase our game in these exhibition formats is a failure. No, that's not a failure. What's a failure is that you don't know how your own game works. Like, that's the failure.
Lesson learned: hire Cam Best.
Yeah,
pay Cam Best a hefty consulting fee. He will prevent this from happening.
All right, let's do some power evaluations for the upcoming.
Wait, that was it for?
Yeah.
Whoa,
that's it. Well, there was one other.
Think about how much Marvel Snap we've talked about.
Too much. Yeah,
can you give me like one off topic?
There was one, but I don't want to go deep into it because it's a deep one. It's a deep one. All right, Roku. I need you to answer this in less than 30 seconds. You ready?
Okay.
Got a non-Marvel Snap question. Should John Jones give up his belt?
Yes.
Agreed.
Absolutely 100%.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were going to say no. Honestly. I just
no, 100%. Fuck that guy. There's a guy defending the interim belt right now. You're not fighting. You fought 3 times in 5 years. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, on the bright side, Dana White is just talking it up. Dude, so cringe.
Full
I
tomato.
Cannot
He's going full tomato. He's turning slowly into even more of a tomato in front of our eyes.
Just like, I know. I just feel like he's gaslighting me. It's like,
it really does feel like he's gaslighting me. He's like, he comes out. He's like, John Jones at 3 on the pound for pound. He's fucking fought 3 times in 5 years. You might be right, but I don't know that you can know that.
He came in after years of being off and destroyed the number 1 guy. It's like, yeah, he fucking wrestled the what?
The guy who doesn't wrestle.
And of course, it was like right after Francis left. So yeah, just perfect. It's just
I don't know. Do you think that's what it is? Like, is that why? Because like people are often speculating, like, why is Dana so in on this John Jones thing, right?
I just think.
Do you think it's just literally like he needs to because Francis is out there still, he's got to be like, it's John Jones. John Jones is the baddest man on the planet. It's John Jones.
Yeah.
To diminish Francis. Is that the purpose of this?
I think that it is like a standard political approach where they can gaslight us enough that we would just believe it. But there's enough of an audience that's like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. I don't even know who John Jones is. They're like, why are they talking about him like he's just like this the greatest thing to happen? And people are actually pushing back because Tom Aspinall is likable and is a good fighter.
Like, the thing
They're
about
just not
John
going to
Jones
take the BS.
Is he actually is the GOAT? Like, that's the thing, right? Like,
yeah, but he
actually is.
Nobody wants to see him fight Stipe. I don't know, except Dana.
Exactly.
I want to see the GOAT fight the real dude.
Yeah, I want to see the GOAT fight for a real championship. I would love to watch that. Like, if Jones beats Aspinall, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not really. There are plenty of reasons to hate John Jones, but it is at the very least a capstone to an insanely cool career.
Yeah, and for people who maybe don't know what the UFC is or don't know what we're talking about, there's a really key distinction. It's not that we don't want to see John Jones fight. We don't want to see him fight Stipe Miocic.
We would like to see Stipe Miocic, a 43-year-old retired firefighter.
Yeah, who used to be, I mean, he definitely is he's a badass.
I'm underselling him. He's one of the best heavyweights of all time. Yeah,
but it's just, it doesn't look like it's not like a super compelling opponent for the GOAT, you know? It's like, why are we tossing a softball? I hate that's not even, it feels wrong to say softball. But,
because Stipe was amazing / is potentially still, I don't know. It just feels like It feels like what Jones is looking for is to beat Stipe and pad his resume without actually facing a real challenge, and it's frustrating.
And talk shit on Twitter for the next 5 or something.
Yes, and it's like, I would like to see you face a real challenge, and then if you win, like, I already think he's probably the GOAT, but if he beats Aspinall, it's like, what are we even supposed to say about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
the TLDR is that there's a matchup between the so-called GOAT that's being put on, and he's not fighting the current interim champion, and then the owner of said company is just kind of like openly gaslighting everybody to think this is the fight that they want, but nobody like, it's ridiculous.
It's bad.
It's ridiculous.
It's like watching him promote every Colby Covington fight.
Well, to be fair, Colby Covington fights it's like you kind of want to see him lose. To be fair, that's like a fight you want to see.
No, that's Mike Chandler for me. I love Mike Chandler because every Mike Chandler fight is completely insane, and then he loses, and that's exactly what I want.
I see him win. Eventually.
I don't want to hear one more lecture from that man about like believing in yourself in America or whatever the hell. I'm sorry. If you run that gimmick in 2024, I'm just going to be like, all right, I hope you lose. I'm sorry.
I want to see Mike Chandler win one. Good thing his fight with Connor will never happen. Anyway.
Oh yeah, that thing that's happening.
Yep. Imagine people that bought tickets to that. And yeah, that's
remember when we said 30 seconds?
Yeah, on to the power evaluation. So we have Kate Bishop coming out as a 2-2. Says on reveal, add 2 arrows to your hand. 2-3. Yep. Normal.
That's not even like a thing you can blame the website for. You just didn't read it.
Really? Oh, really?
Is there actually a website that says 2-2 right now?
Yeah, I think so. Marvel Snap Zone.
No way.
I believe so.
No way.
Was it
She's
changed?
a 2-3.
Was it changed?
No, it was never changed.
I mean, I could have read it wrong. To be fair, I
think this one is not one you can blame the website for. I'm going to go check Snapzone now so you don't slander them. Because there's no way they actually
Kate Bishop 2-3. Says add 2 arrows to your hand. You might ask yourself, what are arrows? So there are.
Yeah, no, she's a 2-3.
4 arrows here. Hey. 4 arrows. First one is acid arrow. Says on reveal. It's a one cost -2. It says on reveal, switch sides. Next one is grapple arrow to 1-3 and says on reveal, after you play your next card, move it to this location. Next one is basic arrow to 1-1. Says on reveal, if you play a card at this location next turn, +3 power. Final one is pin particle arrow 1-1. Ongoing. If your side of this location is full, +3 power. My favorite kind of card in Marvel Snap, by the way. Nico Minoru is probably my current favorite card in terms of game design. So I'm actually quite excited for Kate Bishop. What are your thoughts?
I'm really not excited for Clog Arrow to exist. I don't like that. I don't like that shit at all. That seems very unpleasant for me. So I think the real question is, when it comes to Kate Bishop, how much is this extra power that you're getting worth the utility of playing Jeff? My instinct is that this is like the copycat to Jeff's Nocturne, which is to say it could end up being better. Like, where they're both going to still probably be staples, but like fundamentally, when I look at this card, what I see is a 2-3 that gives you 2 1-3s or 1-4s.
Mm-hmm.
That seems really good. That seems really, 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 really good to me. And I think that like this is the kind of just like straight up decent mid-range card that you're just going to see a lot. You're never going to skip your energy anymore because you're just going to be able to fill your curve up every single time. Just a strong card on rate. There's really not anything else to say.
Yeah. So do you think she's going in just like
does this?
She's just going in like general mid-range decks as well, like a value card? Yeah. Okay.
Yep, I do. I mean, like what? If you had a 2-3 that put 2 Ant-Men in your hand, you'd be like, yeah, I'll probably play that everywhere. And that's basically what this is. Like, that's just a really good thing to do.
Yeah. All right. So I think on the same week we have as well Marvel Boy, which is a 3-2, says after each turn, give 3 of your 1-cost cards +1 power.
Marvel Boy is really fascinating to me because this is a card that, you play Squirrel Girl into Marvel Boy, that's 17 power. That's completely insane. Your 1-drop and your 3-drop are 17 power combined. That's ridiculous. Big number, right? If this thing is hitting 3 cards on turn 3, it is a 14 power card. But it's also very limited to Zoo in what I can see there. And I think one of the things that we learned from Gilgamesh is that when a card is limited to Zoo, it has to be comparably stronger than its peers. And what I mean by that is when you compare Gilgamesh to other big 5-drops like Devil Dinosaur, things of that nature, Gilgamesh will get to a bigger number if you do what it's asking you to do. But because what it's asking you to do is so narrow, it ends up being sort of regarded as more niche, more specifically focused, maybe a little bit worse, right? And this is a card that is like that. It is a good kind of thing to do. In my opinion, if I'm them, this is where I want to push the envelope on power. Because it's so easy to deal with this stuff that giving it extra power is a more safe thing to do than giving an archetype that is harder to deal with extra power. So if you're going to push the envelope on something, cards like Gilgamesh and Marvel Boy that go into an easily countered archetype are the way to go. Another example of an archetype like this is Destroy. I would love to see some help for that archetype.
So would I, actually. And agreed. All right, next one is, how do you pronounce this? Wiccan?
Wiccan?
Wiccan. 4/7.
How did you think it was?
I think I might have said, I probably would have said Wiccan. But
Okay.
You could argue for Wiccan.
I don't know that you can. I'm sorry, I should say I don't know that you can.
I don't know that you can. All right, 4/7. On reveal, if you spend all your energy this game, +2 max energy.
This card is so weird to me because the way you probably use this is like Quicksilver, Zabu, Psylocke this. Like that's what probably is supposed to happen. So you turn 3 this. But then if you built your deck to do that, what's the rest of your deck? One of the things that's weird to me is like, I'm not actually sure how much better, like Arisham has sort of ruined cards like this for me.
Mhm.
Because it's like, think about all the things you're doing to get this ramp and Arisham just gets it for free. Like, think about all the effort you're going to play. Like, you put Quicksilver in your freaking deck, right? You're doing all that stuff and just like, wait, what the hell? The other thing you can do, and this is what I want it to do, Quicksilver Domino, 3-drop this. But even then, it's like, okay, so you have 2 turns of too much energy. What does your deck build look like when you do that? What does your deck look like? Are you just going like Doom Odin? Is that worth
it's just
doing
like
all
double
of this?
6-drop, right? And that's not even that.
It's weird, right? Like there's not as much payoff for 2 extra energy as you'd think there would be, because the time when that extra energy is the most important is when it is that much more than your opponent. When you have 2 energy and your opponent has 1 energy, that's twice as much. When you have 8 energy and your opponent has 6 energy, okay, so you're playing a Jeff alongside your Dr. Doom? That's not really a big deal.
Yeah. Interesting card, for sure.
I agree, it's interesting.
Next one is Speed, 3/3, ongoing. +1 power for each turn in which you spent all your energy.
This is like a card that I'm kind of split on, because when you look at it, people are like, oh, this sucks. But then you think about it, it's like, isn't that kind of a 3/9? Like, isn't that just actually a 3/9?
First
and
time
now you have
I
Kate.
thought it sucked.
Now you have Kate Bishop, who's like making sure you never float energy. You're always able to fill in that curve, never floating anything ever. Isn't this just like a 3/9?
I mean, it could be. So what's nice is that it's way different than Wiccan, because Wiccan is like, if you
Wiccan?
That's his new name. Wiccan. Is if you, so it's ongoing +1 power for each. So
Hold on, I gotta go get some Wiccan pie.
Yeah, if you miss one, it's kind of no big deal, right? You just lose a power. It's whatever. Where you kind of turn off the entire ability of Mr. Wiccan.
Yeah.
So I think it's significantly better than that. But 4/7 versus 3/3, so vanilla rates are the vanilla rate for Wiccan.
Wiccan. Yep. I don't know. Could this be a 3/4? Maybe. Would that prevent everyone who says it sucks now from saying it sucked then? Probably not.
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so. All right, last one here is Hulking, 6/11. At the start of the game, copy the text of a random 6-cost card.
This is either like the 6th best 6-drop or like the 1st best 6-drop.
My mind was closing in on first best, but I haven't looked at all the 6-drop opportunities.
When you look at the math, like there's a lot of bad stuff or a lot of like not great stuff, right? There's like, I think 5 that are like probably actively bad. And then like the rest of the time, there's like the meat of it, it's mostly just a 6/11. And then the upsides are really stupid. Like Leader or Ultron or Doom or whatever, where it's just like, oh, that's dumb as hell. Or Zola, right? Like it's just like, there's stuff, right? This card is like 2 points from being insane. If this is like a 6/13, same ability, it is best 6-drop.
Sure.
At 6/11, it's a little bit like it is entirely possible that his best 6-drop, but it is also entirely possible that you would just rather run Magneto or whatever. And I don't know what we're gonna find out. But like this card is like points away from being completely absurd.
Interesting. So did somebody do the math on all of that? Somebody did like a...
Yes.
Okay.
Like there's not a lot of amazing ones. There are a few kind of bad ones, and then the meat of the 6-drop curve is in the middle. And so a decent amount of the time you'll probably be like, oh, this is useless. But like I do think cards like this have a hidden upside in the terms of cubes, where your opponent has no idea what you're going to do on turn 6, and you have like a deterministic lock because you have a Zola or a leader or whatever, right? Like you're just doing something insane. And I don't know if that upside is going to be what makes this card worth it, but if this card ends up being really good, that is going to be the reason why. And the same people who are complaining about Arishem RNG are going to be complaining about this guy.
Literally,
because this guy has that dynamic. Like this card, if you get fucking 6/11 leadered, you're just so mad.
6/11 Zola, like it's a lot. It's a lot.
Like that's the upside of this card to me, is no one will be able to properly play around it ever, and downside is mostly that it's a 6/11. That's pretty good.
Let's talk about the change in the metagame since the OTA and Cassandra being widely available. Is the narrative for that really just the reintroduction of Surfer decks and this Patriot deck?
I think it's mostly Sandman that I would point to. Sandman, I mean, it's good against Thena, and because of Cassandra Nova, it's no longer total unplayable dog shit into Arishem. Like, that's the real thing that happened for Sandman, is basically, this was a deck that was the world's most unplayable deck into Arishem, which was just an energy ahead of you every turn, which is obviously terrible for a deck like Sandman that needs to be ahead. Just ass. But when you have Cassandra Nova, you can actually meaningfully be ahead of Arishem and play your game the way you want to. And that matters. Especially when you have Cassandra Nova Absorbing Man, which the Patriot bills do. And that also really matters.
Awesome. Well, I'll read that.
The other thing that this deck has, by the way, is Ultron to counteract Juggernaut out of the Athena decks. Just a lot of incidental Athena deck hate that shows up in these decks.
Yeah, to read off that list, it's Wasp, Dazzler, Jeff, Cassandra Nova, Patriot, Brood, Absorbing Man, Iron Lad, Blue Marvel, Sandman, Doctor Doom, Ultron. Yeah, I'll have to give it a shot. As we actually, I'm super excited. I'm actually pretty excited for the Kate Bishop decks. I know you said it was kind of a generic mid-range card, but I don't know why. Nico Minoru it's just one of my favorite cards. It is a higher, like, it's a bit more variant. I just like the modality of it. It kind of increases my opportunity of decision trees in a given game. I feel like I don't know if Kate Bishop will kind of give me the same play lines, but I really, really like Nico Minoru. I think it's currently my favorite card and has been since they've, nuked my favorite cards to the ground.
So can I ask you about Nico then? Because I think like one of the things you say sometimes is like, oh, that's the best card it's like one of the best cards in the game or whatever. Do you think that's actually true?
That Nico's one of the best cards? I don't think I've said that Nico is one of the best cards.
I think you said it literally this episode.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I might have said it was my favorite. I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure. Okay, if that's what you meant, but I'm pretty sure you used the best framing, and I want to dig into that.
I would not like to defend that position.
Okay.
I don't think I said that, but if I did, I do not hold that position.
Like okay.
I'm defending.
Right, okay. I'm not going to do the content creator thing of making you defend a position you don't hold. You don't have to do that.
It is one of my favorite cards, though. I do enjoy it.
Yeah, because like I actually think with Nico, there's like this contingent of people who like overrate it. They think about what it used to be. Oh, this used to be in everything. Like, I think that happens with Iron Lad too. These are actually like fairly specifically used cards now.
Yeah.
Where they have like very defined roles. Like if you're playing a bounce deck, you're playing Nico. If you're playing a destroy deck, you're playing Nico. Sometimes in like non-Athena mid-range, you're playing Nico. But mostly she's in this stuff we talked about there. And I wonder about that with Kate. Like, is it possible Kate gets pigeonholed the same way? She comes out, she's everywhere, and then people realize, actually, we'd rather do something else. She gets focused into a couple decks.
Yeah, I could see that. But it does seem very powerful. That's just like a mid-range value card at this point. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's exciting. It's an exciting season pass card, I think, which
I agree.
Gets me riled up. All right. Well, if you enjoy this podcast, then what they can do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Again, if you want to get your question read out on next week's podcast, shoot us a comment on YouTube. And if you do say this is your favorite X podcast, I will ban you and find you. Video version of this?
He will do at least one of those things.
One of those things.
He will find you to give you a medal, an award for funniest joke.
Funniest joke. Yeah. You and the other 100 people. Video version on YouTube at youtube.com/@_snapshot. Hit the subscribe while you're there. Big apology to all of our listeners for talking about too much Marvel Snap. We'll get back to
We've been doing that for so much. Like, what does that mean?
I mean, people have been accusing me of not playing the game, and all I do is talk about Marvel Snap. The fuck?
Dude, it's actually crazy how, like, occasionally, like, I will just get comments like, does Brendan even play anymore?
There are some weeks where I don't play. Like, Marvel Snap is one of those games for me where I don't feel the need to play. Like, after I've done my things, I just sometimes I don't play, and I'm super comfortable with that at this point. If we were having this podcast a year ago, I would not be, and I would also be still grinding the game, kind of hoping for some sort of competitive outlet. But Marvel Snap, in my opinion, is the best casual card game. And I know we complain a lot about the game systems, but for a game that I can pick up and play, not counting Acquisition, it's the best, because all these other card games, you have to go. You got to build a 60 card deck. You got to acquire. You got to, I don't know. You got to know the metagame very well.
I'm in the middle of building a commander deck right now. I'm in the middle of building a commander deck.
Have you seen the 1v1 dual commander format, the rise of that recently?
No, I haven't, and I probably won't play it.
It actually looks pretty fun, to be fair.
I'm sure it is. Like, 1v1 commander is the only, like, 1v1 anything, because I live with my girlfriend, right? Like, that's the kind of game mode I can mostly play. But right now, I'm building a Vizzini commander deck. Shout out to Wallace Shawn.
How do you spell that?
Vizzini, it's a skin for Baral, Chief of Compliance.
Okay.
But it's the guy from Princess Bride, played by Wallace Shawn.
Okay.
Wallace Shawn is one of the coolest people on the planet, and that is an amazing character. And also, people should read Wallace Shawn's play, The Fever. Very good. I actually had the pleasure. I went to a convention with my girlfriend where we got a picture with Wallace Shawn. I've got a picture. I would show it if it weren't for her being in it. I don't want to blow her spot up. But yeah, shout out to Wallace Shawn, and he's on a Magic card, and the theme of the deck is making my opponents make choices. So the whole deck is just going to be about the wine in front of me or the wine in front of you, and it's just going to be like mono factor fictions.
Huh.
Like just straight up mono factor fiction deck. Like, and that's the deck. I just make you make choices the entire game.
Yeah, shout out to people who like multiplayer card games. I would love to, but I would love to. Looks like a lot of fun, but holy shit, is it a lot of downtime?
Yeah.
It takes. Anyway, thank y'all so much for listening. We'll see you next week.